It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. All right, this is the funniest thing that came out of yesterday.
Yeah?
It really is. This is CNN. As it was, after it was had broke that Hunter Biden was convicted, and then Karine Jean-Pierre, after the conviction, canceled her daily briefing. She hasn't held one in over 2 weeks now. And by the way, following what Eric said 2 weeks ago, Eric said 2 weeks ago to the Biden administration, so apparently they're taking Eric's advice. So,
Yep.
Eric, you're going to continue to give them advice?
Well, I think I will. Just quit. Just get out.
Just get out of the race.
Just get out.
Eric said,
Concede now.
Because they just need to shut up. They just need to say nothing. I mean, Biden doesn't need to be out there. Karine Jean-Pierre doesn't need to be out there. Just everybody shut up. Just
Because
don't do anything would be his advice.
Exactly, because it was, we were asking the question that we've asked a million times, and that is, where do they go? What do they say? What does Karine Jean-Pierre say? And I said, well, she should actually take the summer off. Don't have any more press events. Just don't have any. And that was a couple of weeks ago.
It was bizarre. Biden, he was late because the media was all paying attention to it. His son convicted on gun crimes.
Yeah.
And now Biden's going to go and speak before a group on gun control.
Yeah.
Really? And everybody knows that when he was charged with these gun crimes, he said, my son didn't do anything wrong. And so now he's preaching that he is the prophet on gun control?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. And so, of course, this created some problems. And so after the conviction and then after Biden was speaking, Karine Jean-Pierre said no press conference, none.
Yeah.
And this is what happened at CNN when that all happened, because this is great. And Kate Bedingfield, who is former Biden communications director, was asked the first question and listened to her line of BS.
Yeah.
That is called out on CNN. Because this actually is funny, isn't it?
It is.
It's almost like
hilarious.
It's almost like a Babylon Bee. It's almost as if, okay, this is SNL or Babylon Bee putting something together, because she really can't be saying this expecting people to believe it. Here it is.
Guys.
Kayla Tausche live for us at the White House. Kayla, we'll let you get to that press briefing that was obviously delayed by the president's remarks. It actually just got canceled.
Yeah, we just learned that.
Whoops.
Briefing canceled after the president's son was convicted.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break, I think.
We'll discuss also.
Let's keep going with the panel.
All right, Kate, former White House communications director, Kate Bedingfield. That's kind of interesting. Briefing
Did they
canceled.
cancel the briefing? Well, it's not uncommon to cancel the briefing after the president gives a significant set of remarks. I mean, your aim during the day is to try to get the press to cover the things you want them to cover. So when the president goes out, gives a speech like that on an issue where, that is meaningful to him, where he's got a lot to talk about, where he's laid out, the accomplishments of his administration, by the way, a bipartisan success he's had in his administration, you want the focus to be there. So sometimes
They've known all along he's making this speech.
Sometimes you pull down, but they also didn't know you guys were going to cover it in full, for example.
Because we anticipated he might talk about the huge news.
I love my dear friend Kate here, but we know why it was canceled, because they don't want to deal with questions about the verdict. I understand that, and it's okay to say, look, this is a difficult time for the president right now. We haven't had the opportunity to digest all of this. We're going to cancel this thing, and we'll get back to you guys the next day. Just be transparent with the American people.
They've taken many questions about this from the podium.
Right.
I would expect
if
Karine took questions today, she would say what she has always said. She would point to what the president has said and move on. You make these decisions to keep the focus on the things that you want to focus on.
But this is different. This is different. Because he's been convicted.
I don't think so.
He's been convicted.
As a communications decision, I don't think this is different. This is about keeping the focus on what the president was talking about. Now,
it can be both, by the way. It can be.
Now, somebody has to say to her, stop lying.
Yeah.
conversation ends, you're an idiot.
Exactly.
That's what
are you
somebody
trying
has to have to say. Oh, I agree. I understand the sensitivity. You're a liar. Stop it.
It's normal.
Yeah. So, sorry, and it's be very blunt. I mean, they beat around the bush. You sit there and go, Kate, you're an idiot. Stop lying. We know why.
Yeah.
Biden said over and over again his son did nothing wrong on gun crimes. His son was convicted on gun crimes. He has said his son did nothing wrong. He's now just gave a speech to a gun control group screaming and yelling that Republicans don't want to do anything on gun control, yet he said his son did nothing wrong. Karine Jean-Pierre doesn't want to stand in front of the reporters of the White House press corps that will pound her of the hypocrisy on the president. End of story. You're a liar. You need to shut up.
It's very clear to all of us, and you're either incapable and have been all along, or you're lying.
Exactly. Oh, my God.
It's
just amazing.
It's sorry. You don't, this whole walking on eggshells thing, I don't get it. You're lying. You know why this is happening.
And then they were going to, I'm sure, I'm sure Ducey would have brought up that in a minute. I mean, that was the one thing that was out there.
Yeah.
It was like, in a minute, how many lies did Biden tell in a minute in the gun control talk? Let's play this. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Because and we'll stop it and point out the lies. Here we go. All right.
They're so damn important. We need you. We need you to overcome the unrelenting opposition of the gun lobby, gun manufacturers, so many politicians when they oppose common sense gun legislation. I used to be when I was no longer the vice president, I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
That's a lie. Okay.
False.
False. Let's continue.
Before that, I taught a constitutional law class, and so I taught the Second Amendment.
Again, lie number 2. He did not. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah.
There's never been a time that says you can own anything you want. You couldn't own a cannon during the Civil War.
Yes, you could. You could own a cannon during the Civil War.
Yep.
He was wrong there. Here we go. Oh, by the way, and he's said that multiple times, so he knows that's a lie. Right. Yes, here we go.
No, I'm serious. Think about it. How many times have you heard this phrase? The blood of liberty. Quash your dough. Give me a break.
By the way, he couldn't finish the line. Just so you know, the line is, he said the blood of liberty. It's the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots. Mm-hmm. He couldn't even finish the line there. And so it was just, and then he got into the, I think the whole F-15 doesn't matter. You're going to need an F-15. By the way, I might want a more modern plane. I might say the F-22A.
What?
He's sort of stuck in the 80s there with the F.
Right.
Of liberty. Quash your dough. Give me a break. No, I mean it, seriously. And by the way, if they want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need.
There you go. By the way, right next to him is as he's speaking, is verdict reach Hunter Biden gun trial.
Yeah, right.
Guilty.
Right.
I mean, next. And that was
graphics.
That's of course the problem that he had. But he could. The funny thing is, what he was saying made no sense when he said the blood of liberty or whatever. Mm-hmm. It made no sense. He didn't finish it. He couldn't.
And then he got applause and laughter from it.
He gets applause and laughter as if everybody's understanding what he's saying.
Right.
And do they actually have? Do they have applause signs now? I'm asking that seriously. Do they have?
I think they fill the room with a number of staffers. I think that's how they're doing it.
Okay.
And those staffers get the applause going or whatever.
Because it didn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's like, well, there is no punchline. He got it wrong.
Right. Well, and what he's doing is he's confirming, solidifying in that moment why those of us who believe in the Second Amendment and practice our Second Amendment rights. Hey, Jack, you're going to need jets if we come after you.
Because the whole point was, remember when the first time he did it was like, So you plan on using nukes then against American citizens? Is
Right.
that what you're planning on using?
Right.
I mean, since you brought it up,
Right.
you're the one bringing this up as a discussion.
Right.
Would that be your plan?
Right.
Would you use nukes, or are you going to use the F-22A against?
Yeah, how would that go down?
Against Americans, and just have Americans have an F-15? Because maybe you're right. Maybe we need more than an F-15.
Right.
Or the F-35, so whatever.
Yeah. And
oh, God, it's an idiotic argument.
well,
but it's,
again, he doesn't understand what he's doing with his bravado, with his ego here.
Well,
what you're doing is you're solidifying everything that we believe in. You're confirming all of our fears because you don't care about people's rights at all.
well, when he, there's two instances you can point out to show the hypocrisy on guns with the Democrats recently. One was Alvin Bragg, because Democrats claim they care about people who illegally own a gun. Bragg came in and day one, it's like day one or day two, said, if you get caught with using a gun in a commission of a crime, we're not going to make it a felony unless you pull the trigger.
Right.
What the hell? All of a sudden, and there was no Democrat, there might have been in the city, but there was no national Democrat outcry at all. You and I remember that. None. It's like, well, then you really don't care. You're just throwing that out. You believe if you have the advantage on it, you'll use it. But then Biden is screaming and getting angry at Republicans and people that believe in the Second Amendment. And he said all along that on the gun crimes, his son did nothing wrong.
Right.
When obviously the evidence was there. Now, you can say he's protecting his son. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He's president of the United States. Every time he talks about something like that, he's talking policy.
Yep. Every single time.
And so that's why Karine Jean-Pierre couldn't hold the press conference. She may not hold one the rest of the week. I wouldn't if I were her, because nobody's going to forget to ask the question today. Pete Ducey isn't going to go, well, let's not ask the question, because a day has passed by, because that's gold, Jerry, gold.
Yeah.
Because you simply ask the question that she can't answer.
Is there going to be a presser today?
I don't know. Is he going out of town? I didn't check the schedule.
Could be. I mean, Father's Day weekend. Why not take a 5-day weekend?
Well, it's going to be tougher because you've got the gun stuff. 5-day weekend.
Well, you got to spend more time with your son before he goes to jail.
You have
as a dad,
but
for
Karine Jean-Pierre with the 6 or 8, I don't know what the number is. It's being reported differently with the terrorists, the alleged terrorists that have been detained and arrested here in the United States across the southern border, that the government says were fully vetted.
Yeah.
And as Bill Maloogian said, there's no vetting. They don't know who these people are. We fully vetted them, which means we checked United States records and they have nothing, because there's no records from the country that they come from. So you can't vet them and just allow them in the United States. That's going to be huge today, along with Biden's hypocrisy on the whole gun thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why they can't get away. They can't get away with it. I don't know how you talk to the media. You probably should take the rest of the week off. Take the summer. It's not going well. And no one will notice. The liberal media has been showing up at their door for the talking points that typically a liberal administration would hand to them, and they could just send out to their readers, viewers, listeners, and this administration just doesn't want to cooperate with them. So, what's the point? It would be a showdown between Pete Ducey and Karine Jean-Pierre, like it often is. And she's not going to answer the question. They're going to have to add some more pages to that book. Number one. I don't know how long that takes.
Maybe that was the problem. They needed to add a bunch.
We don't have this page. There's not that page doesn't exist. No, you can't. It takes time to write the lie. I don't know what you say about it, though.
And
everything's already out in the open. Everything is already known.
And you look at the terrorist crossing the border. I mean, CBS had it. Looked like most of the mainstream media covered it.
Yeah.
Here's CBS yesterday in their nightly news.
8 individuals, all from the Central Asian country of Tajikistan, were arrested in Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia. They entered the United States this year and in 2023, crossing the Mexican border. They were vetted and allowed to remain in the country. CBS News has learned further investigation uncovered the men had possible ties to ISIS-K, the terror group which claimed responsibility for an attack at a Moscow concert hall that killed more than 140 people earlier this year.
You know, you've got the media knows it, the people of the country know it.
Yep.
The FBI knows it. Department of Justice knows it. They're scared to death. Scared to death that something's going to happen. And Biden's simply lying to the American public. What Mayorkas is lying to the American public. You know, now we're going to do something about it. And then Mayorkas came on the Sunday morning news shows. No, all we're just doing is giving people easier paths to get in so they don't have to wait at the border. I mean, everything is a pathological lie about the border, and it's about the national security of the United States. I wonder if there'll be any reaction from Democrats who have fully supported Mayorkas and Biden on the insanity of their border policy.
Right.
As far as I know, 99% of Democrats in Congress support the policy of allowing terrorists into the United States.
That's a great point. It's a great question. Any Democrats on Capitol Hill going to issue any concern today?
We'll see. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
The climatic pattern change occurring since the start of June should reach a peak this week as it
cut off a lot of the moisture that has been rolling into the central and eastern United States. And all of a sudden, we have a ridge of high pressure. It's been lurking around various parts of the country over the last several weeks, but now it's going to make a push into some of our key agricultural regions, like the plains and the Midwest.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says triple-digit high temperatures will expand from the southwest gradually.
As we head into early next week, don't be surprised if we see some 100-degree heat across the southern and eastern part of the Corn Belt, possibly as far north as Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio.
A silver lining, according to Rippey, timing of the heat wave should not impact most summer crop production, as the reproductive stage has not yet been reached. One possible exception is in the Deep South, where corn crops there will enter their reproductive stage sooner. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, we'll have the latest New York Post NBC on the alleged terrorists that crossed the border and were arrested yesterday. It seems like there were 6 from Tajikistan and 2 others who were part of the same group also being arrested after being under surveillance for several months. So there was a 6 and there was a 2 that add up. So we'll get that for you. And interesting, very interesting coming up here. You and I already went over it, but a new poll from Pennsylvania, which is really just out this morning. New, what is it? Is the Marist poll? Yeah, the Marist, Pennsylvania poll out actually yesterday, late last night, this morning. Registered voters, not likely voters, but really interesting because of the breakdown. They have a breakdown on if you dislike both candidates, who are you most likely to vote for?
Oh, I like that.
I mean, that's a decent question to ask.
Absolutely.
Especially in this election. So we'll get to that and more on the way.
They want all their loans forgiven. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. This is really, really incredible. I mean, when you think about it, you just wonder, I have to say it this way, in a very blunt way, what the hell's wrong with people? And the majority of these people who support what's going on, that we're allowing suspected terrorists to cross the border, the vast majority are Democrats who believe this is a right thing to do, which is pure insanity. And that isn't over-the-top hyperbole.
Right.
It's the reality of what we all know is happening. The warning signs are there from the Department of Justice, from the FBI. It's all there. But as they write here, 6 Russian nationals suspected to having terror ties to ISIS have been arrested in a coordinated sting operation spanning Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia. 2 ICE sources confirmed to the New York Post they arrested 6 people who hail from Tajikistan over the last week after the FBI contacted the agency to warn it. 2 others were also part of the same group, were also arrested after being under surveillance for several months by a multi-agency joint terrorism task force. According to NBC, part of the investigation featured a wiretap which revealed one of the now arrested individuals was talking about bombs, the sources said. Quote, remember the Boston Marathon bombing? I'm afraid something like that might happen again or worse, end of quote, one of the law enforcement sources told the Post. The target, who was subject to a wiretap, was previously released by federal authorities at the southern border with a court date next year, but has since emerged that he has potential ties to ISIS, the sources said. In a joint statement, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI told the Post over the past few days, ICE agents arrested several non-citizens pursuant to immigration authorities. The actions were carried out in close coordination with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Forces. The individuals arrested are detained by ICE custody pending removal proceedings. The FBI and DHS will continue working around the clock with our partners to identify, investigate, and disrupt potential threats to national security. All the targets had crossed the southern border, and initial vetting by federal authorities did not turn up any negative information tied to their names, Fox News reported. But understand, as Bill Malugin said, they have no records. There are no records to check.
Right.
There are no records being shared with these countries, with the United States.
Right.
You don't know who they are. And so you come, they just say, okay, you come on into the country.
Mm-hmm.
We'll vet them. There's nothing there. Well, we fully vetted them. There's nothing there because there's nothing to share.
Yeah,
and we allow them in the country.
There's no such thing as vetting. And in a situation like this, and what has to happen? Well, there has to be an investigation. Well, the problem is, and we've talked about this when it comes to 9/11. 9/11 was an INS problem. That was a very clear situation where a broken border will allow your enemy to come in at will and attack you at will. And this is another example of that. And there's no telling how many others right now are on American soil.
At least 2 of the men had crossed into the U.S. in spring of 2023. You ready for this? And one had used the CBP One app to enter, according to NBC sources. That's what I almost said Fauci.
Mayorkas.
That's what Mayorkas was promoting over the weekend.
Yep.
Well, the whole goal is to keep people from coming in through the southern border. We've got the app where they can sign up to the app. So one of the alleged terrorists got through on the app because they can't vet these people. And so we're allowing them in the country. And 99% of the Democratic Party is for this policy to continue. 99% of the Democratic Party wants terrorists to come into the United States because they're coming into the United States. We know it.
Yeah.
We've been warned. The Democrat administration, on one hand, is allowing this to happen as the law enforcement side of it is saying, we're not safe. We're allowing terrorist suspects into the country. We can't do this. And it has the full support of the Democratic Party. Tell me one Democrat, except for Fetterman and maybe Manchin, who has publicly gone after and supported the impeachment of Mayorkas for what he is doing, for the line that he is doing.
Right.
And how he is making, with the orders from the president, that he is making the United States a less safe place to live for its citizens because the Democratic Party, the vast majority, 99% of Congress of the Democrats, wishes terrorists to cross the southern border. Please, anybody tell me where my over-the-top hyperbole is there. Where is it over the top?
And I'm waiting to see how many of those Democrats on Capitol Hill voice any concern today or in the coming days.
The arrests come after warnings from FBI Director Christopher Wray about possible ISIS terror plots being staged on U.S. soil and the group's potential for exploiting the southern border. We've been told by law enforcement. In April, Wray warned lawmakers that a possible coordinated attack could take place in the U.S. following the ISIS-K attack on a concert hall in Moscow carried out by citizens of Tajikistan that killed 145 people and wounded hundreds more. And the Democrats are not only are they pro-terrorist with the pro-Hamas, but they're pro-terrorist at the southern border. Allow them in.
Yep.
Well, we're vetting them. Yeah, but you can't vet them. But we're vetting them. But you can't vet them. But we're vetting them. But you can't vet them, you idiot.
And when you make up rules on your own and ignore the law that's in place now, this is exactly what you get. You've basically tied the hands of every Border Patrol agent out there. Every official dealing with it on the ground.
Just a month before Wray testified about the Bureau's fears, understand that the policy is still going on, and understand that the president lied to the American public last week about wanting to clamp down on the border. Just a month before Wray testified about the Bureau's fears, he shared his concerns with the Senate Intelligence Committee about a human smuggling operation at the southern border with ties to terrorists from ISIS-affiliated groups. I asked a Democrat voter out there, why is your party pro-terrorist crossing the border of the United States? Any Democrat out there? Any Democrat voter? You want to answer that question?
Haven't heard any concerns from the party yet.
Yeah.
Over this whole thing?
None. Nope. I'm a talk show host, and just you think about it, and you're at a loss for words. What in the hell is going on with the Democratic Party of the United States?
Well, you know,
what the hell is going on with them?
And the liberal media did not really pay a lot of attention to FBI Director Wray when he was issuing those concerns. You and I looked at it and said, and we picked it apart and said, here's what he's saying, but it's the concerns that you and I already had. He was kind of confirming that there are sirens basically going off everywhere. And that tells me that we should be on high alert, which means you close the border, which means you do everything you can to keep people from coming across. That there is no inherent right to come across. We control that, except when you're Joe Biden. Anybody and everybody gets here.
And the mainstream media knows about it. CNN reported last August that the Bureau, FBI, has been investigating whether dozens of migrants cross the U.S.-Mexico border with the help of a Turkish smuggler tied to ISIS. We know this. The mainstream media knows it. Democrats know it, and they don't seem to care. Well, they don't care at all.
No, they don't.
And you have to ask the question, why? What in the hell's going on? Meanwhile, we do have one poll out that we want to get to, the 2024 elections in Pennsylvania, Marist, Pennsylvania poll. Now, this is more what we would mirror and think would happen during an actual election.
Yeah, right.
And it's where Kennedy has 3%.
That sounds a lot more like what I believe is going on right now, based on you and I doing this for a long time, and where the noise is and where the noise isn't.
Trump with 47% in Pennsylvania, Biden 45%. Kennedy 3%, other candidates 3%, undecided 2%. Now, the interesting thing is among independents, Trump receives 42% to 40% for Biden. Kennedy garners 8% of independents, with West and Stein each getting 3%. While still strong, Biden has lost support among blacks, 68% break for Biden, 23% for Trump in 2020, 92% for Biden, 7% for Trump. Among those with an unfavorable opinion of both Trump and Biden, Trump 35%, Biden 24%, Kennedy gets 19%. Biden has lost support among voters under the age of 45. Biden has 46%, Trump 44%, within the margin of error. That's competitive. Biden carried this age group by 24 percentage points in 2020. So there you go. Now, in Pennsylvania, this is all Pennsylvania. Trump's advantage among older voters has evaporated. He carried voters 45 and older by 12 percentage points in 2020. Now 3 percentage points. Trump 48, Biden 45 in that group, in that poll. A majority of Pennsylvania residents think they and their families were better off during the Trump presidency, 54 to 43.
Well, there you have it. I mean, that's right there. That is a real, that's the one that gets people motivated to vote a certain way.
Nearly identical proportions view Trump's presidency as superior to Biden in terms of the impact it had on the country. So there you go. Basically 10-point advantage in those two areas, which is huge.
Yeah.
I just think, I mean, Republicans, by the way, need to pound on this border thing right now after this happened. I mean,
it needs to be very loud today.
It needs to be loud all this week. They need to pound on this over and over and over again, because this doesn't make sense to any American. And I know if you're a Democrat, none of this makes sense. And you may think, well, you're making it up or the information isn't accurate. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
You've got people in your party. I'm sorry, they're crazy. They're insanely crazy on issues like this. Absolutely insanely crazy. I don't understand it at all. Nobody can. And they won't talk about it. In fact, they lie about it. Biden lies about it. Or we're cracking down the border. We're doing everything we can. And they're lying to you.
Yeah.
Why would your government lie to you to make you less safe? You need to ask yourself that question.
Right.
Because that's what they're doing. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. We'll have to lead with this story tomorrow. So you're telling me that, as we had mentioned it earlier, that the Miss Alabama really is not a Miss Alabama, that people are wondering why she had that. Because I saw she was Miss Alabama, and
right.
She's not a Miss Alabama. This is not the Miss America contest.
Well, the critics, including former contestants, have come out and said, no, this is not part of the Miss America or Miss USA pageant circuit. It's part of something else that really no one has heard of. And so this is not the official Miss America pageant circuit, which would mean that this individual that they're calling it's instead the Miss National American Alabama. what? And they're saying, we've never heard of the circuit. So it's like they came up with their own pageant that they're going to have. And
it wasn't Miss No Ma'am, was it?
It wasn't the
Miss No Ma'am?
Yeah, the Miss No Ma'am. It's not a part of the actual circuits. And what they're saying is you also shouldn't be able to use Miss Alabama because each of those states represents someone, in the case of the Miss America pageant, that's going to go on to the big Miss America pageant from those states. So Miss Alabama would be actually somebody else. So I don't know if there's going to be a lawsuit filed here. I guess that would be the question. We'll talk more about it tomorrow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.